picture pinned to my wall, an image of you and of me, and we're laughing with love at it all. Look at our life now, all tattered and torn. We fuss and we fight and delight in the tears that we cry until dawn. Oh, hold me now. Oh, warm my heart. Stay with me. Let loving start. Let loving start. You say I'm a dreamer. We're two of a kind. Both of us searching for some perfect world we know we'll never find. So perhaps I should leave here, yeah, and go far away. But you know that there's nowhere that I'd rather be than with you here today.
Recently.
Yes. 2 days ago.
The twins also celebrate a birthday in this, and their cake of choice was carrot cake, and I wanted to know if that's what you had on your birthday.
Oh, no, but I love carrot cake.
You had the choice and you didn't choose it.
Oh, that's true. We were in London. I had afternoon tea, and so what was the first one I had? The Victoria slice, which is like raspberry and vanilla. Always good.
Yes,
And then I went a little bit, like I wanted to get something that I wouldn't get here. So it was a tarte au marron. So it's a chestnut, like it was like a chestnut tart, like sweet chestnut and like a raspberry. It was really good. It was really, but at that point we were all already full of tiny sandwiches and scones, and I was like, so I couldn't even finish it. He had carrot cake. There was another night we had dessert out, and I got this deconstructed carrot cake. It was amazing. Yes. We had so many desserts, I can't remember them all. That's the problem.
That feels like the right answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many desserts. Yeah.
Okay, forward to. Just one thing, maybe? Half a thing, Rajani?
So I have 5 more books coming this year.
This year.
Yeah, this year. It's a little crazy. I have 4 picture books and another novel coming. So the 4 picture books, 2 of them are nonfiction medical topics.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yay. One of them is about vaccines. It's called A Vaccine is Like a Memory. And then that's coming June 20th. And then the other nonfiction medical one is called Your One and Only Heart, and it is about the human heart, and it is written in poetry.
I can't wait.
Little paired poems, and the art for all the picture books is amazing, but the illustrations for this one, it's a debut illustrator named Lauren Page Conrad, and she works in collage. And when I heard my editor suggest this person, I was like, okay, but like, how are you gonna make a cut paper collage about like anatomy? And she did it, and it's amazing. It's just an amazing book. And then 2 fiction picture books. So Summer is for Cousins is coming May 16th because it's about like before the summer. It's about summer and cousins and ice cream. So yay. And then Masala Chai Fast and Slow is coming September 5th. So that is about a grandson who likes to go fast and a grandfather who likes to take things slow. And every day at 5 o'clock they make masala chai together. But then the grandpa gets a little injured and he can't make the chai. So the grandson says he's going to make chai for him. And it doesn't go well. So that's coming. And then the other novel is a co-written novel. So Secret, with my friend Chris Barron. The secret to that is that I only had to write half a novel, and we ended up with a whole novel. It was amazing. So it's called The Secret of the Dragon Gems. It is coming on August 29th. It is epistolary. Yeah, so that is written in letters and emails and texts and video chats. And it is about 2 kids who meet at a summer camp. I love summer camp. Why am I so obsessed with summer camp? They meet at a summer camp where they both had a horrible time, but they meet on the last night and they see these sparkly silver rocks by a stream, and they each take one because they remind them of this book series that they're obsessed with called The Dragon Gems. And so they remind them of the dragon gems, and they each go home with one. One lives in California, that's Chris's character, Sam. And my character, Tripti, lives in Massachusetts. And then they start writing each other letters, and then emails, and then texts, because weird things are happening. And they begin to wonder whether the rocks are really just rocks.
Love it.
Yes.
Maybe.
And we had a ball. That was like the pandemic project of joy, where we'd already, like, Chris and I had tossed around the idea of doing a book like this, and we're such, like, we love the same nerdy, like, fantasy sci-fi stuff, so we were like, we should do it. And then he was like, no, we should do it, like, let's do it now. And then I was like, okay. So then we would write a chapter and then email it and say tag, and then we revised on Google Docs. Like, we had a ball. It was so great. Yes.
That sounds like the opposite of this process.
Yes, yes. It was like, here, this is easy, blah. Exactly. And there's like, but okay, so I'm gonna ask another question of, like, just imagine this, guys. Have any of you played any role-playing games like D&D or anything like that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's like a few. Okay. There's this weird. Yay! All right. There's some people back there who played. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit. Good. Let me just tell you, there's a weird thing that happens sometimes where you're playing a character, right? You're rolling dice, you're doing your thing, but then you interact with other characters, and sometimes the emotions that your character feels become your emotions, and you're like, wait a minute, why am I mad? I'm not actually mad at you, am I? And then you start to be like, I don't know. So there were like these scenes that we would write. So like when we did video chat scenes, we would just call each other on the phone and type into a Google Doc together, and like acting like our characters. And like there were times when like my character was mean to his character, because my character is like the one that is like, there's not something magical going on, stop. And he's like, but maybe there is. And she's like, no. And so I would do these things, and then I'd be like, oh no. And then afterwards I'd be like, Chris, I'm not hurting your feelings, am I? And he's like, no, I'm fine. And I was like, okay, thank God. Because it felt weird. It felt very weirdly emotional, like I was actually being mean to him, but I was not. We knew in advance that
So
this
you were
was going to
basically
happen.
Gillian Anderson and he was David Duchovny?
A little bit. A little bit. Exactly. Minus the red hair.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, that was really fun.
Okay, who has questions?
This sounds so stupid, but it's true. Because we were doing gymnastics in gym, and I was so mad at it. And I was like, in my imagination, I was like, look at me on the parallel bars. Look at me on the balance beam. I'm amazing. And we get out of there. She's done with her shopping. We get to the car, and her car door opens, and it's a guy with a knife.
Oh my God.
And he basically said, he was like, give me your purse or you're dead. And I was just like, oh my God. So she gave him her purse, and she was holding onto her car keys. So, and I was sitting next to her in the passenger seat, and I had a little purse with like $10 in it. And he didn't care about my purse. So he ran off into the night. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't hurt us. But we, like, this was pre-cell phones. We went back to the mall. We like had to do the whole police thing. It was so terrifying. We went home, and I was like, so first of all, I was like, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been daydreaming about whatever I was daydreaming about. Like, I had this weird connection between, like, I was doing something that was, like, not, like, was kind of selfish or whatever it was, and so this bad thing happened. I was terrified that this guy was gonna, like, show at our house because he had our driver's license. He knew where we lived. And I was, like, petrified. I wouldn't, like, our living room was the front of the house with the door to the outside. I didn't want to put my back to the door and practice the piano. Like, I didn't want to do anything. It was terrifying. And the weird thing was that I don't remember how long I felt like that. My parents knew about it. I mean, we talked about this later, like way later. And they were like, we were worried about you. But we never said anything. We never said anything. And I was just kind of like, and like, you know, my dad would be like, oh yeah, like I checked everything, don't worry. I would check the lock 5 times. Like, it was bad. And ultimately, I think the reason why I wasn't permanently freaked out about everything was because they caught the guy. Like, later that night, he tried to grab somebody else's purse and she like kicked him. And the police got him. And then there was a whole trial. Like, the guy went to jail. It was crazy. He had robbed like 8 women or something. And so, like, I was like, okay. Like, and also, like, eventually I got a little bit older and I was like, well, he doesn't, like, whatever. He probably threw everything away. Like, he just took the money and got out of there. But it was so weird. So I remembered that and I was like, oh. I was like, it's not that unusual for people to blame themselves for something, even when it had nothing to do with them. So that's kind of what happens in this book. And it's not like we all do these crazy things, right? These games you play. If I can just make that, if I can throw the piece of trash in the trash can, something good is going to happen. Like all these little things we do with ourselves, but the opposite can be true too. So yeah, so I think it was the climate that made me write about anxiety, but I also then had a memory that I was like, oh, where'd that come from? I guess it was, it was that memory that was like, there you go. Writing books is like therapy. Yeah. Yeah. That's a funny story. When my dad would go on business trips, I had an overactive imagination, and I thought, what if the person who comes back looks like my dad, but is not actually my dad? Like, how would I know? Because I'm weird. And so I like made up all these quiz questions that only my real dad would know the answer to. And like, thank goodness, I mean, my dad, he's a really, really nice guy. He must have been like, this kid is out of her mind. Why is she asking me these questions? But my dad was always my dad. But then I thought, I was like trying to write a novel, and I was like, what if there's a girl whose dad comes back from a business trip and he's acting really weird and there's something wrong with him, and but she's the only one who notices. And then I was like, well, why is that? I was like, maybe she's the youngest of four and everyone else is really busy. And then I was like, what's wrong with him? And I was like, it's something magical, because I love magical things. And then I thought, like, we walk our dog in the woods, the conservation land in Concord, and I was like, oh, it's something magical in the woods. And I was like, I know who lives in the woods. It's fairies. And guess what? A Midsummer Night's Dream has a mention of India in it. And I was like, that's it. Now I know how this book is going to go. And then also I'm obsessed with baking. So the other secret is that I put all the things that I love into that book because I was not sure that I would ever publish another book. So I was like, better put it all in here, better dedicate it to all the people I love now so that no one is offended when no other books happen.
What are we on, 14, 15?
Oh my golly.
By the end of this year, it'll be 15.
15
Yeah.
this year.
Rajani.
Hard question.
Okay, so I'll tell you, the real answer is I can't choose because my books are like my kids, and no parent can choose a favorite kid. But I feel really lucky that I get to write all kinds of books. Like, I get to write funny books, and I get to write sad books. I get to write picture books, and I get to write novels. I get to write nonfiction, and I get to write fiction. So I feel really lucky that whatever mood somebody happens to be in, they can read a book of mine that might satisfy that mood.
Wait, did you make a picture books so far?
Yeah, I have 6 picture books so far.
Some of them are right behind you.
Yeah, they're right there. One of them is nonfiction about DNA, and one of them is about a girl and her grandma, and another one's about a girl and her mom and her grandma. That's a change in the book. Yes, the biggest change was going from half poetry and half prose or regular writing to both of them being in poetry. The other thing I should tell you is that the name changed, like, very late in the game. It was going to be called Switch because of the switching places thing. But then my publisher was like, the whole story isn't about switching places.
Yeah.
And also, like, it like the idea of switch makes it seem like it's going to be like, ha ha, like a funny kind of rompy kind of book, which it's not. I mean, there are funny parts in it, don't get me wrong. But so they suggested Mirror to Mirror, and I was like, all right, I think that I like it.
I love this title. I think it's perfect. I really do.
Thank you.
Was Mirror to Mirror from the song? Is that how they thought of it? The publisher?
Oh, from what song?
The classical song you put into there?
No, it's not. No, it's there are mirrors in this book, one early on in the book and one near the end of the book that play an important role. Yeah. And they're twin sisters, so they're kind of mirrors to each other.
Right. It means a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. But they each have their own best other friend. Like, they're best friends with each other, but they each have their own other best friend. And they have to fool those people, which is hard. So they're kind of like, like, how am I going to fool this person that is always hanging out with her? Yeah. And, but it's fun. It's interesting. And then we'll see how successful they were. Oh, somebody back here has a question? I think that every story I write has something that happened to me, even if not exactly something that happened to me, but something that I have felt. And so, I feel like And then with characters, I usually take little bits of people that I know and throw them in there. For example, with Midsummer's Mayhem, oh gosh, this is a hilarious story. Okay, so the dad's name is Paul Maxon in the story, and this is a long story, but I'll try and make it short. When my parents went to India, they used to call home using a calling card because it was like cheaper. And for some reason, when my dad would call us, the caller ID would say, "Call from Paul Maxon." And I was like, who is Paul Maxon? And it was my dad. And so the dad in that story was Paul Maxon because of that ridiculous thing. So my children were like, "Mom, there are all these inside jokes in this book." And I was like, yes, I put them all in there because there may not be another book.
Only book I'm gonna write. Yeah.
There may not be another book. I'm putting them all in there. That's just the way it's gonna be. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. There are all kinds of Easter eggs in there. And then also allusions to, so the town in Midsummer's Mayhem is Comity, Massachusetts, and we live in Concord, Massachusetts, and those two words mean the same thing. And they're also like famous writers from Comity, Massachusetts, like Teresa May Falcott. And so my children were like, "Mom," I was like, "I know." I was like, "Come on, just come on." That's right.